Before we hit the road on today's discussion, I want to express our sincere gratitude to our sponsors. Without their support, this podcast wouldn't be possible. A big shout out to our sponsors that are advocate members: DHL, Louisville Paving, KKW, Fusion Now, Gordon Food Service, Midwest Carriers, Usher Transport, and Cook Trucking. Without your support, we wouldn't be where we're at today. So buckle up. Let's get ready for an insightful journey into all things next gen trucking, your road to the future. We are excited to have another episode of NGT Talks. And today we have the very important topic of the Safe Driver Apprenticeship Pilot Program. I have two guests on the show, Tim from Garner Trucking and Joe from Nussbaum. And we are going to discuss, because they have been some of the first innovators to be in the Safe Driver Apprenticeship Pilot Program. So first of all, Tim, tell us, what is the Safe Driver Apprenticeship Pilot Program?
Well, it's an opportunity for our industry, I feel, to get a leg up for the first time in a long time on our driver shortage issues. And it's the kind of that transitionary period where we typically lose a driver from 18 to 21 years of age. We can now take advantage of that, find the proper candidate that's qualified, train them properly from 18 to 21, allow them to cross state lines and do the same job that our over-the-road fleets are doing today.
Okay. So this program has been going on a little over a year. And Joe, why did you all as a company want to participate in the Safe Driver Apprenticeship Pilot Program? And hey, moving forward, we'll say the SDAP, right? For sure.
Yep, it's a mouthful for sure. Yeah, it's a good question. And I would say, we would probably have questioned, I mean, we didn't talk about it a lot before just because it wasn't even an option, but we would have probably long questioned the logic, I would say, behind restricting, who can drive interstate to 21 and above, just because, I mean, obviously 18-year-olds can do a lot of other mature things like vote and join the military, the armed forces and all that. But then, so when it became a talking point, an actual option, I think we were pretty quick to consider it. And it's just like Tim mentioned, I mean, there is a huge gap there. I mean, so many people can join the trades or whatever they want to do and never even consider trucking because they're locked into a career, a few years later when they hit 21. And so we wanted to help in that aspect. And also we just, this is not a plug for Nussbaum, but we do believe in what we have going on here in our training program itself that takes, somebody, whether they're 21 years old or 50 years old, and trains them to be a truck driver. We have always put a lot of emphasis on making sure we're doing it the right way. Very long training program, probably one of the longest out there, very thorough. And in our mind, if we can be, people are going to join the industry one way or another. If we're on the front end and we're the ones training them, we know at least the ones we're putting out there on the roads are going to be safe and trained the right way. So in that same vein, then, this seemed like a good opportunity to do our part as well. And it's interesting, our training program itself started back in 2016. Mm-hmm. And at that point, that felt like a big leap because we had a few years before that, we had changed our standard from 2 years experience required to 1 year. That was kind of a big deal. Mm-hmm. And then now all of a sudden we're talking about taking people with no experience and training them. And, we had employees here, drivers, office staff alike, I think that probably thought instantly we're going to become one of those, if I can say it like this, a puppy mill, just get them in, get them out, get them on the road. And so there was that concern. And we took it slow. We viewed it as hey, let's test the waters here. How can we do this? Maybe we hire a few trainees a year. I think we probably hired less than 10 the first year we did it. And fast forward to today, it's like pretty consistently about 20% of our hires in a year and they end up being some of our best drivers as far as, you know, safety scores and just tenure wise. It's just been a great thing. And so I think using that as kind of a model, it's like, well, the safe driver program, we viewed it a little bit the same way. Like we weren't going in looking to, you know, this isn't a way to feed our driver force. It's just, okay, let's get started. Let's hire, you know, maybe 5 the first year and see how this goes. And could it be, looking ahead to the future, could it not only be a huge thing for the industry, but also just a viable thing for Nussbaum itself? So yeah, that's kind of the bigger picture, I guess. And so far it's been really, really interesting results and good, I would say. I'm sure we'll probably get into that, but in general, we want to be innovative, and this felt like a way to get in on the front end of something and again, do it the Nussbaum way, which we feel like is a positive thing. So
awesome. Well, good. I love what you both have to say. And what I want to know, Tim, from you all, tell us the process to get into the program. Say I am a carrier, I'm considering it. Like, do you apply first? Did you talk to your insurance first? I mean, what'd you do to go about this?
Also, a great set of questions. So we are self-insured, so it did allow us a little bit of leeway there. Of course, you know, insurance companies are still going to have their guidelines, and we want to be respectful of those. But you know, frankly, our insurance company several years back didn't allow for trainees, and we still had a training program. I go back all the way to '97 with Garner. I actually drove for Garner. I was trained by Garner, fresh out of driving school. And so, you know, there's a program that's, you know, much like Nussbaum's program. You know, we've been in development and changing and improving over the years. And so we had every confidence, just the same, that we would be able to put a program together that's going to accommodate an apprenticeship. In fact, we started ours in 2015. And we did it here on an intra-state basis and trained drivers. At that time, I had left a association meting and realized that we could just do it ourselves. Thankfully, the government's come along and decided years later that they can give us some guidelines to follow. So to answer your question, I don't know that it's an extremely difficult process. Obviously, there's some requirements in terms of what you need to have in the trucks, in terms of monitoring systems and safety systems that need to be inside the equipment. But we did utilize the services with Fastport to be able to go through that process. They have and represent several apprenticeship programs in several different industries, so they have a good beat on things. And they made that a pretty smooth process for us. Got us through that, and of course approved. And now, you know, you're at a point where you've got some regular reporting and some commitments you have to keep up with in order to stay active and to be accommodating or following the program.
So when you signed up, did you just go on the FMCSI's website and is there an application process to be a carrier?
Yeah, there's an application process for it. And again, Fastport kind of walked us through that process. I don't know that it was anything extremely painful to go through. So, I mean, if you went to Fastport, you can find them very easy online. They pull up right away. They can get you through that process. They make it a very smooth transition.
Awesome.
Agreed.
We can put Fastport, their contact information in the show notes today.
Great.
Joe, did you all use Fastport as well?
We did, yeah. And if I'm another carrier, like just getting into this and considering, I'm thinking like, what are the pain points going to be? That Fastport definitely helps with that a lot. I mean, I don't know how, multiple meetings, sitting down with them. And then I've fired, I don't know how many emails over to them, their contacts in the following months, asking questions, probably the same question multiple times. And they've been really good, quick response, very helpful, willing to do about whatever to help us succeed is how it felt. So.
That's fantastic. Great. So you decided you wanted to do it. Joe, what was that conversation like with your insurance provider?
That's a good question. So I was not in on that specifically. the way the structure is, with me being the recruiting manager of the driver recruiting, and then Jeremy Stickling, my boss, he's our chief administration officer. He would have sat in on that probably like with Rick Schmidt, our HR director, and talked through that. I think I can summarize the general. I mean, it's kind of like what Tim said, also being self-insured. Definitely, I think that gives you some leverage there. But we had a conversation with him, and essentially like, hey, you know, we've been doing this for a while in general. Kind of, again, it helped having a program that had already been in place for years. And we've already had really strict standards in place. This program itself, they're proposing, the FMCSA, is very strict. It's an FMCSA program. It's going to be monitored by them. You know, this is not just some willy-nilly thing. So I think just having that conversation, setting the tone that, hey, the expectations for this are, you know, these people are going to be thoroughly vetted and then thoroughly monitored, like Tim mentioned, every month. You know, so yeah, so I think just having that conversation and laying out how we intended to go through it, the program we already had in place, and the extra measures we implemented to kind of beef it up even. For example, like if we're hiring someone that's above 21 just to go through our training program, we don't mandate like an in-person interview. If they're, for this program, we do, they have to come in. We want to meet them in person, sit down. We're going to ask for references. We're not always going to do that for a standard hire. We might, if they're, you know, depending on how young they are, if they're fresh out of high school, we might look at transcripts, ask for that, and just get a little bit deeper. So I think just that conversation, you know, not that maybe it didn't alleviate all their concerns, but enough to get that overall green light. So,
and from my understanding, the insurance carriers were the ones that actually helped put this into place. And so some of the bigger ones like Great West, I know that they are several of the insurance providers for some carriers that are in the program. So it's worth having a conversation if you're considering being in the SDAP to see if your insurance provider would be okay with being in the program. And so, I mean, that's probably one of the first questions we always get is, what about insurance? But it seems to me you guys have such well thought out training programs that insurance, they you know, get behind the fact that you're really working hard to train your drivers in an extra safe manner. So how hard, Tim, was it to set up, like you have to have a certain trainer to do that's got experience? Tell us a little bit about the program and what it all entails.
Yeah, there are some requirements. I believe it's 5 years that a driver has to be over the road before they can even become a trainer. They do have to be certified, and a lot of that I'm assuming swims around that 5 years of experience and what's happened there. That's I think the one point to all of this, you know, we want to take a couple of steps forward, not only just to have someone who's qualified on paper, but an individual that's going to be able to relate, translate, educate, and have communication with that individual that is 18 to 21 years of age. I mean, I'm 52 years old, and to put you know, an 18 to 21-year-old in a small confined space with me may work really well. It may work really bad. So I think it's important that even as you go through this process, if this is a path you're going to go down, you really want to take a look at that individual from a personality perspective, and how they are able to communicate. How are they going to be able to relay the important things, and realize that chances are very good that we're going to do some things a little differently from one another, or have much different thought processes from 18 to 50 years old. So I think, you know, the qualifications are what they are as far as the federal program is concerned. You're either going to meet those or you're not. But I think you've got to peel back that onion a little bit, and you've got to take a look at the individual so that you can provide a program that's going to be a successful one.
Right. And Joe, to you, what did you all do in order to prepare to get ready for this program? Did you have to change a lot of your what you already do to train, or did you really able to align it with what you guys already have?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, as far as like the trainer side of things and just having the people in place, that was nice because we'd had our program in place for 5 years, I guess, by that point. So we kind of had in mind, hey, these would be some good trainers to submit for this right off the bat. We have a lot of good trainers, but just narrowing that down a little bit. And then on the structure of the program side, I think really since the beginning of our training program, we've always kind of done it where they go out with they go through our orientation week, and then they go with the trainer for 4 weeks, and then they actually go on their own for 4 weeks, and then back with the trainer for another 4 weeks. So it's always involved 8 weeks of training, but it was split up in 2. And so to meet the structure, I believe they have to do 8 straight weeks with the program with the trainer to knock out their hours requirements. They have to complete like 400 total hours within that 8-week time frame. So so for us, an SDAPP trainee, we just combine it. It's 8 straight weeks with the trainer, and then we still bring them back later for 2 more weeks. So we kind of, that's one way we beefed it up, I guess, a little bit. We do the 8 weeks to knock out the program requirements, and we do have them go out on their own for like 4 weeks, kind of like a normal trainee would in that early going, and then bring them back. In those 4 weeks, you hopefully pick up on anything they need fine-tuned or additional training on. So we really didn't have to change too much. We just have a couple different PDF documents that we send to the hire to let them know this is how it's going to look, this is how the pay is going to work. Those documents look slightly different, but it wasn't too big of an adjustment.
Gotcha. Awesome. How about you all, Tim, at Garner?
So yeah, we did start with some of our trainers to be able to get them approved and put through the program. They've, to Joe's point, they're already tried and true. They've got some years of experience with training, and it makes that I think a little bit smoother transition if you're using what you already have, the superpowers you already have. And so that's where we started, and then again wanted to get down to the kind of the personality a bit too, and who's going to be most likely to have success with these individuals.
Fantastic. Has there been a roadblock that you guys consistently see, or is it pretty much once you get into it a streamlined process?
Tim, you can go first if you like.
I don't know that I would use the word roadblock with anything. We've actually had a total of 5. And to put it in perspective, we're a company size of about 85 pieces of equipment. So, for us, that's a pretty large number. Out of those 5, 3 have been successful and graduated through the program. The other 2 were cut during training. And that was because of their level of responsiveness to either safety protocols or just a continuing concern that there may not be the best candidate. And we take that seriously with our over 21 drivers as well. But you've got to take it really seriously when you're talking about an 18 to 21-year-old to make sure that they're set up and able to really follow down this career path. It's not a numbers game at all. It is about the quality and the content of the individual and making sure that we're putting good, safe drivers out on the road, hence the name of the apprenticeship program. And we want that to be high quality. We want it to be a successful program. There's no point in doing it if you're not going to be able to do it right.
Yeah. How about you?
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't feel like there's been any, from our perspective, and we've actually only brought on 2 more than Tim, and we've got 500 drivers ish, so that's really good numbers. From my perspective, there hasn't really been any additional pain points than just what we normally see with our regular training program. And one thing is consistently, like, a good trainer is an incredible asset to the company. I think we're realizing that more and more as time goes on. And so we've tried to find the balance between rewarding our trainers and not, burning them out, rewarding them so much that they want to keep going. And then all of a sudden they look back and they're exhausted because they've trained too much. So I think that's overall just having a good, consistent training force, enough people in place that you can hire, keep hiring trainees. That's like the overall pain point. With the SDAP, it's a lot smaller, obviously, but yeah, really, I mean, we have not had any additional from these students. I think just the thorough vetting. I think we're realizing kind of what we thought, that these are young. They have the ability to be young professionals in trucking, just like any other industry. And it's, yeah, I actually emailed a few of the different folks here in different departments that would have had firsthand perspective of our trainees. And I would say overwhelmingly positive feedback. Of the 7 we've actually hired, 1 aged out of the program. I think he was 20 when he started, so he turned 21 relatively soon. And then 1 did not last. He was a great young man. We hired him from a few states away, and he had to come on with the understanding that he just wasn't going to get home a lot. We just didn't have the freight or even the trainer in that area. He was paired with someone that lived in a different location. It's like, here's the offer if you want it, but it's going to be tough. And it was. I mean, he was just a super nice guy, and I think he missed home, so he quit within a few weeks. But other than that, we've had, I think, 3 have graduated through, and 2 are still in it. One's getting close, and one's maybe a few months in. And when I say graduated through, I mean like they're graduated through our training program. Our training program lasts technically 6 months. We call them a graduate, but officially certified through that 6 months later. So 3 of our safe SDAP trainees have graduated through that, and are actively running the program. I'm reporting on them each month. 2 of them are still within our 6 months, and I'm reporting on them each month. And then the other 2, 1 aged out and 1 left. But without getting too specific, I would say there's been 1 of the 7 where there was maybe any extra additional concern of like safety or awareness to that type of thing. And even that, nothing major. I mean, reporting on him every month, no major incidents. As far as concerned by the FMCSA, obviously they're seeing everything we're sending to them, but just more like we're aware of him. And the others, I would say, it's been just like our regular training program, and I would say just like our regular hires. I don't hear any additional concerns on them, and a lot of positives just as far as their professionalism. Just a lot of comments of them doing very well and good to work with. And so it's been really fun to see. Small sample size, but I feel like very, very encouraging in the early going. So.
And you made an interesting point about, training the trainer. Tim, what do you all do to train your trainers? How do you identify them, and how do you make sure that they're going to be a good fit to be a trainer?
That's a great question. Really great question. So that's a process that for us requires a bit of a time with us in the first place before we would even entertain. Depending on what their experience level is when they come in, that can vary a little bit, but on average, it's about a year that they need to be with us. And that gives us a good indication, a good sense of what that individual is capable of, how their communication style is, what their safety records is, delivery, on-time delivery performance, and all those, the things that we factor into, what's quote unquote a good driver, right? From there, then we bring those individuals in. We actually have a program that we put them through to kind of go through what the expectations are, the stages of our training, how we're going to approach day 1 through day whatever it is, in order of these are the expectations. Here's the things we're going to be looking for in terms of development and growth on each day. There's a series of videos and things that we also have the trainers, and then the trainee will actually watch through the course of their training along with the actual exercises of doing the job, and we kind of step to and step forward day by day, so that it's not the harshest transition, I think, as Joe's pointing out, because it's a reality, is it's a hard job. You're leaving home, whether it's for, a couple of days, a week, a month, whatever the case may be. It's a hard job. And so that transition's just alone by itself enough. Most of us come into an office or a manufacturing facility. We work whatever that designated hours that we're required to work, and then we go home and we see our families and we have the extracurriculars. Those folks don't do that. So that transition can be quite a bit more difficult. To kind of spin on that, to tail on that a little bit, the interesting thing there for an 18 to 21-year-old is they may not have as many of those responsibilities. And while they'll miss home, it also gives them a good fundamental foundation for what the industry is, how it behaves. You're more apt to learn and be accepting of things at the age of 18 to 20 versus after you've habitually lived for, 10, 15, 20 more years than that. And you have your own routines and your own family, your own life, whatever those things may be. So it allows, I think, for an adjustment in a different way. And in some areas, I think maybe a little bit better. So to get back to your question on the trainer, there's a lot of factors that go into that. We don't just, you want to train, okay, let's go ahead, you train. There's an entire process behind it that we want to validate the individual and make sure that we have the best of the best. And the other side of that is we have some excellent drivers that there's no way in frosted hell that they're going to go ahead and train another driver to do the job. So, that's a part of it. There's got to be a willingness and a want, and it can't be about money as a motivator. It's got to be contributing to that next generation, because that's really at its crux. That's what's most important, because that's really the function you're providing.
Yeah, those are all really interesting points. And so, so let's talk about the apprentices, these young people that are getting into the program from like step one, like, okay, how did you find these 18-year-olds that came to you already with a CDL, right? How did you get those?
Well, I guess from our end, we didn't really do much. We've never advertised or anything for our training program. At any point in the last 8 years, we've never really had to actually try to spread the word. We've just had enough come organically. And so with the SSTAP, we kind of viewed it the same way, especially since we were looking at a much smaller scale. It's like, we'll just kind of see how they trickle in. One helpful thing is the FMCSA does include a list of the companies in the program, and there's only like 29. So, it's a pretty narrow list. So if someone is interested and they're going there, they're going to see all of us on there. So we've had a few reach out that way. And then we've actually had our very first apprentice was the son of one of our drivers at the time. His dad actually has moved on to a different company, but he's still with us. Other than that, I'm trying to think if there was any other. I think a few of them have been local and probably just knew of us, and yeah, word of mouth. I mean, we haven't done a whole lot as far as like, again, no advertising, and we've just had enough come in to satisfy what our kind of our goal was in the early going.
So did they pick up the phone and call you, say, hey, So they're not emailing you or like applying online already. They'll make a call first usually.
I guess that's a fair question. The 7 that we've hired, I guess I'd have to go back and see how they initially came in, but one of those ways, either they knew of the program, went on our website and did our short form app, or sent in a full app, or gave us a call or a quick email. But basically, I guess my point is them reaching out to us. So it's been helpful.
Good. How about
ours is a little different. We have a good relationship with a lot of the area schools. We kind of take a few steps to present ourselves here locally. We've got a good working relationship with the high schools and some of the trade schools, just to kind of maybe they're not thinking about trucking, especially when you're talking about high school. they may not be thinking about trucking as a career choice. And so just to, spend an hour once a semester and go over and make some visits at that level, you never know what you may plant, what's kind of seed you may plant from that. So that's something that we've done for a lot of years since the apprenticeship program's available now. We've kind of accelerated that a bit. There's a few local CDL training schools, trade schools that are within the area here, within about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes from Findlay, Ohio, which is where we're located. And we'll go and we'll visit on site and actively recruit drivers. There has been one of the three that we have currently working for us, I do know, was through an acquaintance. Our operations director had a relationship with a gentleman's father, and as a result, his son decided he wanted to get into trucking, and we so happen to fit the bill for how you can do that through the apprenticeship program. So that's one of them. The other two both came from trade schools that train for the CDL, and we're looking to get into the industry. And I think that's another piece that gets missed in all of this with the apprenticeship program. I mentioned at the beginning of this that I started driving as a trainee and coming out of school. I was 25 at the time that I did that. And at that time, it was about a career choice and a path that was going to improve the lifestyle of myself and my family. And so that's why that decision got made. It wasn't because I actively wanted to get into trucking, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so now you have this different dichotomy with those folks because they're coming straight out of high school. They know what they want to do, and you're giving that opportunity for them to be able to do that. And I think that's really what's most important. And maybe, time will tell, but maybe the big difference between that transition from one job to another versus coming in and following a career path.
Mm-hmm.
We say that every day. If we could get more programs created for 18-year-olds to be able to drive and to get their CDL, they're making it as a first career choice. And that's going to positively impact the image of the industry because they're not just, saying, oh, well, I guess there's nothing else I can do. So I'm just going to, I know I can make good money being a truck driver. These are the people, they want to do that. This is their passion, right? And for you, Tim, I mean, look at it. You're the CEO, COO.
COO, yeah.
Yeah, right. And so you went from driving, you didn't really know, but you're like, hey, I know I want to support my family. And then you're like, I love this industry, right? Is that kind of the transition?
Absolutely. Years of recruiting and sales and operations. And I've been afforded a great opportunity to be able to advance a career, which I saw very quickly. As a matter of fact, about 2 weeks into my training program, CDL training, you start to see the recruiters come in and you realize, okay, well, there's already more opportunity than just driving a truck if you wanted to navigate that way. Now, the other side of that is there are many individuals out there that were born to drive. And we're fortunate to have many of those and build lifelong careers. We just had a driver actually last Friday, had been with us for 38 years and retired.
Oh,
and he had over 52 years of driving.
wow.
And so
Incredible.
The majority obviously with us with Garner, which is really cool. So those individuals exist and love that, and frankly, I still enjoy driving to this day. There's something about the job that is quite attractive, and we want to find those individuals and let's get them into place at a younger age where they're properly trained, they're driving safe equipment, the proper reporting's getting done, and everything that follows should prove to be better for our industry in total.
Yeah. And how about you, Joe? Tell us about some of your apprentices and what they're liking about the program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We actually, I haven't, I need to do more of just checking in with them and just get their perspective. We did bring one on, our very first one, Jordan Kirsten. We brought him on for our Nussbaum in-house podcast we call it dashboard radio. And we sat him down, and Jeremy and I kind of interviewed him, talked for about 45 minutes. So that was fun. That's probably been 6 or 8 months ago already. And yeah, I mean, I didn't, it's just interesting. I didn't get everybody's different. Everybody has different personalities, and these young people have different mindsets, but I haven't gotten the impression, I guess, that it feels, I don't think there's necessarily a lot of culture shock, or I think Tim said it well earlier on that at this age, they have less just history. And so jumping into something new, like, it's just kind of, it's been a good transition for a lot of them versus, when we hire trainees that are older, maybe coming from careers where they've been in them for 15 or 20 years, it can be a lot. And we will have, we have a thorough hiring process, and yet we'll still at times have someone quit in the first week or 2 weeks, because it's just like, it was like, we try to lay it out, what this is going to be like as best you can, obviously, until you're doing something, you just can't quite envision it. We try to lay it out thoroughly, and a couple of weeks in, it's like, I made the wrong choice. Like, this over the road lifestyle is not for me. And I just haven't seen that with our, even the one that quit. I think if he had been someone that lived near here where we were able to get him home weekly, probably would have been a different story. He was literally having to stay out like a month at a time. Talk about a tough transition going from high school. He was fresh out of high school to that. So other than that, it seems like the impression I've gotten is like, they like it. They do a good job. People like them. And it's not a lot of like, wow, this is like, I just can't believe what this industry is. And I just, it just feels like it's come pretty natural to them, if that makes sense. So
one of the things I think that's interesting too, the younger generation, they play video games with their friends and they listen to podcasts. And do you see that with these people that these drivers for you? Are they spending the night out in their truck, and do they have gaming systems set up?
Tim, do you have some insight on that?
That's a good question. I don't know that I could fully answer that. My honest answer would be, I would guess yes. It's funny that you bring that up, because I recall many years ago, while I was still out of the road, I remember a gentleman having, I think maybe a 19-inch television, back to the big tube TVs, a 19-inch television and a PlayStation in his truck. And I was just like blown away by the fact that he had all this stuff hooked up in his truck. So by today's standards, as easy it is and as portable as it is to be able to have gaming systems and streaming and all those types of things, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I couldn't speak intelligently about the 3 that are on the road for us, but I definitely would echo Joe's sentiment there. We have a tremendous grouping of 3 drivers that the adaptability to the lifestyle and the job wasn't a problem for them. And I know that 2 of them are extremely involved with family and other activities and caring for other individuals and taking care of, side jobs and all these types of things that they do. And they handle it with real grace and real style. Their expectations of us are to keep them busy while they're on the road. But outside of that, legitimately, these 3 that we have they're some of the safest drivers that we've produced, and they care about the job that they do every day. They're reliable. It's been nothing but upside at this point, and hope that doesn't change. But as Joe pointed out, you don't know what you're going to get when you've got an individual that came from one career path and moving to another. That the shock value of the job, as much as you can tell someone, until you live it, until you go out and do it, it's a game changer. Even my own experiences, by Thursday of the first week of training, I called my wife and said, I got to find something else to do. I can't do this job.
Did you?
Yeah. I was out there for 4 years and did over the road for 4 years. So that's, testimony that even if you have the drive and the passion and can safely, capably do the job, that's only 2/3 of it. You have to be able to cope and deal with the lifestyle, and that's much harder. And I think it's a smoother transition for an 18 to 20-year-old.
One of the things that we sell to young people that we need to is it's like having a tiny house on wheels, right? I,
Yeah. Yeah.
I met a
Very
student.
trendy. We're very trendy.
Right, exactly. I met a young man. He was 21. He had just gotten his CDL and he was in New Orleans. And he told me he's only left New Orleans a few times, and that's when the hurricanes were hitting. And he was really excited to go see the country. So, providing this opportunity for an 18-year-old to be able to get a career they like, that they're choosing, right? This is their
Mhm.
choice. And they're making really good money, but they're also checking the box of seeing the country, right? Seeing what's out there and exploring. And it does seem like it's a great opportunity for a younger person because they don't have the things that will tie them down.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Exactly. I can recall even at the age of 25 very fondly behind the wheel of the truck, just being thankful for the fact that I'm seeing the arch in St. Louis, behind the wheel of the truck. This is the first time that I've ever seen that. Going to Baltimore and driving in some very heavy traffic and crossing some of those bridges and things that are so impressive out there. Sometimes even simple things, you just enjoy a bit of nature when you have an opportunity in a different environment than the one that you're used to. So all of those first time experiences happened because I was behind the wheel of the truck and given the opportunity to be able to do that, and I was getting paid for it.
Yeah, and you're getting paid. When I was in Utah this year, I saw a ton of trucks, right? And I'm just like, I can't believe that these truck drivers get to see this beautiful countryside. I mean, it's got to just let them wake up every day, see the sunrise, and just be thankful for that.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely right.
Right. So in terms of apprentices and these young people, have you gotten any feedback from them about what they like about the job?
I've had a chance to sit down and do a podcast with two of the three of them, and in fact, I'm getting ready to do a podcast with the third because he's getting ready to transition out. He turns 21 in May, so at the end of this month. So I wanted to kind of get his take because it's going to be a different perspective from the other two, which are a bit younger. And the overall opinion's been very good. I think that we offer enough flexibility in our programs because we have opportunities for working different schedules and those types of things that they could pick what they wanted to do and make it work for their lifestyle. And so I think that's probably been the biggest thing is that it's afforded them the opportunity to go out and develop a career and develop skills and get a visual of the countryside and those types of things. But it's also allowed to have some sort of framework that we can work within so that they can still have lives outside of the truck and take care of the things that they want to. The one thing that we found with all three individuals, and I find this most striking, and our owners brought this up a couple of times as well, is how strong a family background there is on the three individuals that we have. So mom and dad, that they were here. We have a little celebration once they get their actual certificate and everything, and that's it's a big deal. And we've had the grandparents come along with. We've even had one gentleman had his pastor here. So there's this strong family bond and support system that's happening with these individuals. And I think that that's going to be key with anything that you do as far as raising children. You've got to get support of your parents and allow them to be a part of the process as well. So I think all of that, including the family in that process, I think while maybe unstated in some cases, I think is truly appreciated as well by these individuals. So, I think the job's a hard job, as we've said. You're gone, you're working long hours, you don't actually leave the job, but I think there's some serious enjoyment that's come along with it too. They are always in a very pleasant mood when you talk to them, which is great. I know one of our three has found a new passion. I guess if you're familiar with Machine Gun Kelly, has a coffee house in Cleveland, Ohio, where he's originally from. And so now every chance he gets, he's stopping off in Cleveland, Ohio to get some of this magic coffee.
Okay.
It's the little things, right? It's the
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
I absolutely love that. Joe, what about you? How about
Oh
perspective?
man. Well, Tim's kind of putting me to shame. I mean, to my chagrin, I haven't, of our, other than Jordan, the one that we had on our podcast, I haven't done a lot of, we don't have a specific kind of award ceremony or anything like that for this program.
You can take that, Joe, because
Right.
you've taught us a bunch over the years.
It's
time us to give you something.
Fair enough. But yeah, no, and I just, again, I agree though that they in general, just my perception of them is that they are enjoying this. I know there's been some ups and downs. There's some frustrations at times. I mean, it's still a new industry for them, and then you add the home time factor in, there can be those moments. But overall, it seemed like they fit in well. And I remember Jordan on the pot, or when we had him on for our dashboard radio, he's a big car guy, likes to tinker around and fix them up. And I think he I think, having money to spend on car parts, and, you can always spend more on your car. So I think he's really enjoyed that, kind of funneling that for him a little bit. But yeah, this podcast that we're doing right now prompted me to send that email around to, some of the different folks in operations and safety and some of our performance coaches. And it's the first time I'd really done that, asking for feedback. So it's making me realize like I should be a little more in the weeds with them. And I was thankful to see it was overwhelmingly good. And then that combined with just my run-ins with them. Hey, Ethan, how's it going? And just has been positive. But yeah, go ahead.
I just think that this is really like this image thing. This is going to help us with our image problem, because what you were saying, Tim, with the families and that they have all this support, you guys, these are good kids, because one of the big things that people say is 18-year-olds should not be driving a truck. That's like the first thing that they say. This isn't just any 18-year-old. This is somebody who wants to do this. And they already have a safety-minded personality that's bringing them to want to do this. Like you said, Tim, they've got the support of their family. This, I think, is going to help us with our image issues and bring along these young people who we want. These are the people we want in our industry. So we need more carriers to sign up to be a part of this program. From my understanding, they need the numbers to be able to say, is an 18 to 20-year-old just as safe as, say, a 24, 25-year-old that's getting into trucking, or a 35-year-old, right? And so they need these numbers to be able to identify if this is something, a program that we should do and make into a law. Right. And so what would you say, to finish things out, to any carrier that's considering this? Tim, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, there's many things I'd like to say. I think, first and foremost, this is a program we definitely believe in as an organization, something I'm personally behind. I'm personally invested in this one because I believe this is the right path forward for our industry. I would urge carriers to get involved with the program. Absolutely urge them. We're a long way from, I think the number, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, 3,000 is the number of individuals that they want to see. It's been a few months since I've checked, but the last I knew there were 13 or 14 total in the nation. And you're talking to two carriers that probably, have done maybe the most work.
Probably the most, right? Yeah.
So, I think we, as an industry, and to address kind of the general motoring public, and to your point, Lindsey, these are individuals that have chose this career path. This is something that they want to do, want to try out. Much the same as those individuals that decide that they want to go into the military and they have that calling to be able to fly planes and helicopters and shoot whatever, whatever size of gun that you learn how to shoot. It's the same as walking out and going into a machining, some sort of machining facility or somewhere with presses where there's a level of safety and danger that may not be as inherent to everyone else, but certainly inherent to the person that's operating that machinery. All of those things happen at the age of 18 as well. All we're saying is that no, not every 18-year-old would I want to put behind the wheel. I've got 4 boys. I can think of 1 or 2 maybe shouldn't be behind the wheel of a tractor trailer. But there are those individuals that are conscious-minded. They are safety-oriented individuals. And I think those are the folks that we're after. And the one thing I hadn't considered in all this is the overall image, the long-term image. I mean, all 3 of the gentlemen that we have driving today as apprentices they have a spectacular image of who they are, you know, with that family that surrounds them, religious backgrounds, those types of things are all important. They act professional, they behave professionally while they're operating the truck, and while they're in with customers and those types of things. So if you have any sort of training program or the want or the need to embrace this program, I highly urge you to do that, because this is how we improve as an industry. This is how you improve as a carrier. And I think this is the next logical step. And let's not forget all the discussions we're having about technology in trucks, going to automatic transmissions, ELDs, safety equipment that's all over these trucks. Who's not most accepting of that? Oh yeah, it's the older driver. The older driver that really wants to protest, and most of them love it after it's all in the truck and implemented. Then they see the value of it. But for an 18 to 21-year-old, technology, that's how they live their lives now. And so to have that, that level of advancement that we have in tractor trailers today, it's not just steering wheel holding anymore. There's a lot to it, and I think it's the next logical step. I'll get off my soapbox.
I love that point. I love that point. I never thought about that either. That's awesome. Joe, how about you?
Tim. Yeah, I think for me, the big question is, I think just as a company, like, can you get behind the concept of training new people, first of all? Because that was big for us back in 2016. I mean, I can still remember the thoughts I had the conversations I used to have with drivers, like, yeah, I mean, we require a year of experience. Well, like, if you won't hire me, how am I supposed to get that year? It's like, well, yeah, I don't know, find someone and then call. So it's like, if you're not, like, are you willing to train in the first place? And if you're not, why? You're not really gonna help the industry if the answer is just no in general. And then secondly, once you are, and kind of like Tim said, if you have any sort of training program, I think it opens the door. It makes it a lot more easy to consider the possibility. Oh, okay, if I can hire and train a 21-year-old, why not a 20-year-old, and why not an 18-year-old? I mean, like Tim said, it's not really the age, or you both said, really. I mean, there's a lot of 25, 30, 35-year-olds that I would not want to hire, and there's 18-year-olds that I would not want to hire. So, like, let's remove the age and look at the person and just go off of the character and the overall, like, do they check the boxes? I mean, do we feel like this person specifically is a good fit? Are they mature? As a company, are we a good fit for them? Is this industry a good fit? We try to evaluate all that. And obviously there has to be a starting age somewhere. You're not going to do this with 14-year-olds, but again, 18 being pretty well, nationally accepted as a mature age. I think, when it comes to the military and voting and all those things, I just, why not, for trucking? So, and as far as the program itself, I think I initially looked at it as like, oh boy, this is, 30 extra hours of work for me every month. And it's not. There is some work that goes into it in the initial setup, and it's probably like, if you're a brand new, just considering this, where do you start? Well, you got to start having conversations with your safety and your HR and your ops folks. Like, if you don't have a training program, then it really feels like you're starting from square one, but maybe this is the push you need to get that going. But then, yeah, you have that conversation with insurance, and talking through that. And if that's a green light, once you get this up and going, again, Fastport really helps there. And even my interactions with the FMCSA or the contracted parties that help me if I have a question on my monthly submissions, feel like I've built a relationship there. I enjoy working with them each month. And it's probably with our current 5 in the program, it's probably a half hour to an hour of work for me once a month to submit the
Oh, wow.
monthly data. That's an estimate. And we just really haven't had any situations of having to report like the 24-hour if a big thing happens. We haven't had that. Thankfully, hopefully that continues. But yeah, so I guess just thinking, like, again, going back to when I said, like, what are the pain points? Like, there's really not many. Once you get this going, it just becomes kind of in your monthly flow, just like anything else. And the results that have come from it have just been really positive. And I think we'll be pretty bummed if ultimately this doesn't continue past the pilot period. And we do prep our trainees. Hey, this could possibly end. Could be a really awkward situation where you drive for us for 2 years and you're only 20, and then the FMCSA shuts it down, and now you can't drive here for another year. So we prep them that on the front end. But yeah, our hope would be that we can at least get the data, like you mentioned, Tim. I think they said they need at least 3,000 was the cap they set, I believe, which is now like kind of humorous because, like, just scratching the surface. If I remember right, though, 200 drivers would give them, they felt like, sufficient data.
Okay.
Don't hold my feet to the fire on that, but
Right.
that's the number I remember. So hopefully we can at least get there, but
okay.
It's been slow
So
going
this
across the
is
industry.
charge. We need 200 apprentices. So we need carriers to sign up and it's fun, right? It's fun to build your workforce through getting young people and helping them get good jobs. And like, you can just see with the money that they're making, how they're going to be able to buy things for their car, buy a house. I mean, this is a community
Watch them be
service.
successful. Just
Right.
watch them be successful. Absolutely. I do have one other thing before we finish up, Lindsey. I kind of occurs to me, because obviously you've got some carriers, 34 carriers, I think, that are approved. I wonder how much of that is from the top down. I wonder if, at the top it was, okay, we need to get involved with this. So we went through the requirements to get it done, but there's no support on the back end. I also wonder if maybe the reverse isn't true, that, your middle management decided, okay, we could get into this. We got permission, but there's no push, no enforcement from the top down. And if either of those are the cases, I think you've got to have, like with any other program that you put together, you've got to have all your ducks in a row there. And for those carriers that are out there and actually are approved, getting that buy-in from everyone from the top down, or vice versa, making sure that you've got the right programs in place to be able to execute this. We need you all. We need you all to participate in the program. Those drivers are out there. You've got 2 carriers that have shown that they exist. And there's some that exist in your neighborhood too.
Absolutely. That's a great point, because I know there's several in there that haven't really done anything with it. So, we just want to encourage you all to get in this program. It's a great program, but better yet, it invests in the next generation. And that's who we want in our workforce. Is we want to bring in young people and just highlight the awesomeness of our industry, right? We want to move them from where they are today to being successful in their career. And so thank you for being on NGT Talks, and we appreciate you all. And thank you for Garner Trucking and for Nussbaum to just make this commitment to being a part of this program. And we know it's an investment, so thank you.
Yeah, well, good job, Lindsey, getting Tim on here. You kind of scraped the bottom of the barrel with me, but well done with Tim, and the driving experience and all that is very, very helpful and insightful for me to hear too. So appreciate all your time and effort as well.
Well,
Awesome.
thanks to you both. And Lindsey, thanks for all the hard work that you do. Next generation is important. We've got to start somewhere.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.